Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel Learning and Sharing. Today we are going to discuss the remote sensing. Remote sensing is a subject, a digital or computer-based subject, which has been added to the geography. Now this is the latest edition which has brought lots of new things, lots of revelations, not only revolution, but the revelations about the earth. So this subject was the need of the hour. This subject has brought, you can say, brought a fresh air to the subject, because the geography is although is a traditional subject which let us know, which give us information about the earth, the every character about, be it physical characteristic or the cultural characteristic. So that was a traditional information or traditional knowledge. But the latest edition of GIS and remote sensing has brought lots of new things. It has brought a revolution, I'll say, in research, particularly the research in physical sciences. So आज हम remote sensing के बारे में पढ़ेंगे. हम देखेंगे कि remote sensing है क्या. We will discuss its introduction. We have a definition. We also discuss the types of remote sensing. We will see how this system works, कि ये जो remote sensing system है ये किस तरह काम करता है, which are the main components in remote sensing. And then we have a color theory. We have also sensor and satellites, because these sensor and satellites are key to the remote sensing. And we will also discuss the applications of remote sensing. By the way, I'm going to make another video on the historical development or the history of remote sensing. This is just the introduction or the main components or main parts of our main information about the remote sensing. So let's go to the details of the remote sensing subjects. So the remote sensing is broadly defined as the collection and interpretation of information of any object, area, or even without being in physical contact with them. So what does mean that remote sensing is a technology, or you can say the system by which you collect the data, you collect the information about any area or object or event, whatever's been happening on the surface of earth, or you want to have information of any area or an object without being touching, without being going there, or without being having a close contact with that object or that event. So यहाँ पे क्या कह रहा है कि remote sensing क्या है कि जहाँ पे you are getting the information, आपको information मिल रही है, या you are collecting the data of any object, कोई जगह है, कोई object है, या कोई event है, but you are not being going there, you are not being physically present there, or you are not being close to there, मगर फिर भी आपको information मिल रही है. तो okay, so remote sensing is a science and technology by which the property of specified objects, area, and phenomena can be identified, measured, and analyzed without direct contact with them in order to make useful decisions. So when we are going to have any sort of decision, we need to have information, complete information about that thing. तो यहाँ पे क्या कह रहा है कि you not only identify, measure, and analyze. So you get every type of information about that property or area. So this is sort of technology which help us in identifying, measuring, and analyzing that object. So the term remote sensing is often wrongly applied to only satellite-borne imaging of the Earth's surface. So what has been said, that remote sensing and being closely taken, are being closely being resembled, are being connected with the satellite-borne imaging. Though images are very important, they are key, means key data in the form of data, but it's not compulsory. It's not only that the only data has been got through the satellite. So बहुत सारे लोग समझते हैं कि जो सैटेलाइट डेटा होता है या सैटेलाइट बोर्न इमेजिंग होती है उसको सिर्फ रिमोट सेंसर कहते हैं. रिमोट सेंसर कोई भी चीज हो सकती है, यानी कि यू गेट इंफॉर्मेशन, यू गेट डेटा, बट यू आर नॉट बीन गोइंग देयर. तो वो कोई भी डिवाइस हो सकता है, कोई भी ऐसी डिवाइस हो सकती है, कोई भी आला हो सकता है. इट्स नॉट कंपल्सरी दैट ओनली सैटेलाइट बोर्न. सो द रिमोट सेंसिंग इज द कॉमन नेम ऑफ ऑल मेथड्स used to collect data at distance from the object under study by some kind of recording devices. So it is all process from taking the images or the data to processing, and then we have a results of those data. So हम आगे जाके इसको भी देखेंगे. So principles of remote sensing, what are the principles? So the source of remote sensing data is electromagnetic radiation which are emitted or reflected by the object. So what has been said, more important thing in remote sensing is the electromagnetic radiation, the radiation which is being coming out from any object और बीन आइदर बीन इमिटेड और रिफ्लेक्टेड. आपको बताया कि सूरज की रोशनी जमीन पे पड़ती है, जमीन के मुख्तलिफ ऑब्जेक्ट्स पे पड़ती है. वो सूरज की रोशनी या तो वो ऑब्जेक्ट या वो जमीन या उसको एब्जॉर्ब करती है या उसको रिफ्लेक्ट करती है. तो जो उसकी रिफ्लेक्शन होती है उसको जो सैटेलाइट यानी कि क्या कहते हैं सेंसर्स हैं, सैटेलाइट्स हैं, उसको कैच करते हैं. So which then help in their identification and classification. फिर उसके बाद हम we are being able to identify and classify that object. So यहाँ पे important क्या है, electromagnetic radiation, यानी सूरज की रोशनी जो किसी ऑब्जेक्ट पे या जमीन पूरी पे जो पड़ती है, फिर उससे जो रिफ्लेक्शन आती है, उस रिफ्लेक्शन से हम वो डेटा कलेक्ट करते हैं या उसका इमेज करते हैं. So precisely information is gathered in the form of image data through electromagnetic radiation reflected or emitted from those objects. So that reflection give us the image data, यानी कि वो फोटो इमेज हमें मिलता है जिससे हम डेटा कलेक्ट करते हैं, यानी वो पूरी उसमें डेटा मौजूद होती है. So aircrafts or satellites are deployed as a common platform to capture images through on-board sensor. तो यहाँ पे क्या कह रहा है कि जो aircrafts हैं या satellites हैं, they are important, they are key, which are being deployed, which are being used to get the images. तो यहाँ पे aircraft और वो. Now there are two types of remote sensing depending on the source of energy which illuminate the object under the study. The remote sensing techniques are classified in two types. One is a passive remote sensing, another is the active remote sensing. Now we'll see what type of what does mean by the passive and the active. So this is passive and this is the active remote sensing. You can see here. मैं आपको आगे जाके इसका बताता हूँ. So passive remote sensing. In passive remote sensing, the naturally radiate or reflected energy from the Earth surface is features measured by the sensors operating in different selected spectral bands on onboard and airborne or spaceborne platforms. Similarly, in photography in daytime without a flash. So what has been said, what the light is being reflected by the object, it is being captured by the satellite. It is being record by the sensor or the satellite. So here the natural लाइट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. यहाँ यानी कि क्या कह रहा है कि जो नेचुरल लाइट होती है, यानी कि जो लाइट किसी ऑब्जेक्ट पे पड़ती है उससे वो जो लाइट रिफ्लेक्ट होती है उसको वो रिकॉर्ड करती है. सो यू जस्ट बीन डिपेंडिंग ऑन द रिफ्लेक्टेड लाइट. तो आगे हम देख रहे हैं द मेन डिसएडवांटेज. The main disadvantage of passive sensor is that they can collect or detect object in the daytime only because sun's illumination is not there at night. However, they can record naturally emitted energy like thermal infrared. तो यहाँ पे ये क्या कह रहा है, यहाँ पे ये कह रहा है कि ये जो satellites हैं या sensor है, they have been only working in the daytime. So now the light which has been at daytime reflected has been only captured. So passive remote sensor क्या होता है कि जो सूरज की रोशनी उस ऑब्जेक्ट से निकलती है उसको ही वो कैप्चर कर सकता है. यानी कि अगर रात हो जाती है, if we have a night time, then these sensors are and or the satellites are being unable to capture the images. तो उसको हम passive remote sensor. Passive remote sensor में we are totally dependent on the sunlight. Active remote sensing. In the active remote sensing system supplies its own source of energy to illuminate the object and measure the reflected energy returned to the system. Active sensor gives own energy for illumination, so it enables to detect and record the image at that time. So यहाँ पे ये क्या कह रहा है कि the energy is being the sunlight or illumination is being produced by the satellite. So satellite give reflection or give light to the or the help in reflection of that object जो light उससे निकलती है. तो यहाँ पे in active remote sensing you can capture the images even in the night time. अगर सूरज की रोशनी दिन को नहीं है और रात हो जाती है फिर भी आप उससे ले सकते हो. You can still get the data from there. So there are weather independent also. Artificial microwave can pretend clouds, light and shadow. So there's also weather has also been important. If the sun or sky has been clear, then we have a more data, more exclusive images, clear images. or agar sky has been not clear, we have a clouds or other things. So now it can be improved with artificial microwaves. They can penetrate clouds. So हम manually भी उसको करते हैं, light or the shadow. So active remote sensing cost intensive and also when compared to the passive sensor. तो यहाँ पे क्या फर्क है कि passive remote sensing में आप तो just you have been relying on the sunlight, but in active remote sensing में because you are being manually are being getting informations or being you have a more technology involved here, so it will be costly. तो यहाँ पे आपको ज़्यादा पैसे लगते हैं. So now we'll see the how this whole system works of remote sensing. Two major steps are involved in this process. The first one is data acquisition and the second one is processing and interpretation. तो दो चीजें होती हैं यहाँ पे कि in the first step you get the data and that data mostly in the form of images. Image में ज़्यादातर होती है, but it's not compulsory that's only been images, can be in a figure form. So image form में, then the second is the processing and interpretation of data. Once you got the data, you need to process or manipulate or interpret data. So data acquisition is made by sensor from the platform. This information is used for the formation of product, which are finally used for interpretation purpose by comparing with ground truth information. So there are 5 distinct components in remote sensing. We'll see one by one. So these are the 5 components which works from data collection to the interpretation or until you get the results of the data. So number one is the platform. In platform actually is the place where you control all the activities. So either it can be at the ground station, mostly it's been a ground station. So you connect. So you make any building or any platform where you are being connecting with your satellites or the sensor. So ground platform is the ground station where we have an airborne, spaceborne data has been collected through the satellite. Then we have a sensor. Sensors, they are being in the space or in the sky. So these sensors capture the images. So we have active and the passive. Active sensors, we have radar, and passive, we have the cameras. Then the products. Products comes in the form of photographs or images. अब वो जो प्लेटफॉर्म उससे कनेक्ट हुआ, सेंसर्स ने वो इमेजेस लिए और वो इमेजेस come to us in the form of aerial photographs, and these aerial photographs are being converted into the computable tape, या तो वो direct images हो या hot copy में उसको imagery convert किया. Then start the process. Number 4, the process. फिर आप उसको process करते हो. So you make some correction, you insert some, or say filtration, जो भी आप so you do different sorts of things through the computers, So background correction, we have contrast stretching or digital processing, ताकि उस images को हम अच्छी तरह से read कर सकें, उस image को अच्छी तरह clear कर सकें. So there are different steps are involved. Number 5 is the ground truth collection, image interpretation. अब आपने क्या किया? Once you got the image, you process it, then you will have to see or match it with the ground truth. यानी कि you will have to go to the ground and see this all these things are being present and on the ground. तो आप उसको कंपेयर करते हैं कि जो हमने इमेज लिया है, जो हमने डेटा लिया है, क्या वो ग्राउंड पे भी मौजूद होती है. So these steps are being involved. So now, as I told earlier, the satellite and sensor are key, which collect the data, which collect the images or record the images. So satellite can be classified by their functions. So there can be different satellites and they have a different functions. So जो satellites होते हैं वो अलग-अलग होते हैं, उनके अलग-अलग functions होते हैं. Because when we talk about the applications of remote sensing, there are the different type of applications. So and the satellites are being accommodated, are being used, are employed on the basis of their functions. So satellites are launched into space to do a specific job. The type of satellite that is launched to monitor cloud pattern for a weather station will be a different than the satellite launched to send television signal across the Canada. So the satellites, there are different type of कुछ weather satellites हैं. अगर if you want to have a data about the weather, or if you want to have a land use data, तो उसके अलग satellites हो गए. और अगर communication satellites है, like radio, television, or internet also, so उसके अलग satellites. So the satellite must be designed especially for its functions. So you can see different sort of satellites. We have a Landsat satellite, we have a sport satellite, we have a spacecraft satellite. So these all satellites have a different functions and different record capacity here. So we will see. I'll give you a lecture on that in coming, when we talk about the historical or history of the remote sensing. तो उसमें मैं आपको ज़्यादा डिटेल में बता पाऊंगा. Now we have another thing which is called the color theory. Now color is very important because there are natural colors which are being showing the natural imitation of that object. So the color is used to enhance maps in many ways. Color is attractive. Color creates contrast between and emphasizes the map feature of data. So if you have any map or any image, so you just follow the colors. So if you are putting the other colors, or if you have been changing the color, they are more attractive. They make that image more attractive or give you more clear data. So through contrast, emphasis, and visual appeal, color enhance understanding of the map. Yes, so it enhance the understanding. We have more understanding about the maps. Thus, improves map communication. So what is being given in the maps, it can be clearly understood. So यहाँ पे, so it is preferable to use color on map, but it's easy to color to be used incorrectly. It has also been a chances that you use that color incorrectly. You may use, swap the colors. So instead of natural color, you may use the fake colors. इस पे भी मैं आगे जाके आपको एक lecture दूंगा. So I'm not going into detail about the color and electromagnetic spectrum. So in this case, the video will be extended. तो मैं अलग इस पे एक लेक्चर बनाऊंगा. There are primary colors. Primary having seen how color is seen by the eye, how the mixing of color of light and pigment results in the creation of other colors. We can further describe the production of color by looking at primary colors of light and pigment as a formation of color by mixing of it. So there are two types of color: primary colors and natural colors and the false colors. So primary colors वो होते हैं जो उस ऑब्जेक्ट्स के कलर होते हैं. सो व्हाट इज been reflected by those objects we can see clearly. तो हमने अगर if you have a vegetation, the vegetation been showing the green color. If we have rock topography or the rocks, it's been emitting the brownish color. So if we have a snow at the ground, the snow is being reflecting the it has been showing the color which is being it's a natural one. And if we have the forest is being showing the dense or dark green color. So something like this. So these are the true colors or the primary colors. So additive of colors, we add some colors here. Now we'll talk about the satellites. I was talking about the satellites. So here are the different satellites. Like we have an astronomy satellites, which are Hubble Space Telescope. We have atmospheric steady satellite, which are being called the polar satellites. We have a communication satellite, which is ENC. We have a navigation satellites. Navigation, जो पानी के रास्ते सफर करते हैं. Communication. In communication, we have a radio, television, internet, and atmosphere. We have everything which has been in the atmosphere. Astronomy, it tells about the sun, stars, satellites, natural satellite like the moon. So, and reconnaissance satellites, we have a Canon Big Bird, Lacrosse. We have remote sensing satellite or red sat remote. We have search and rescue satellites, which is called Corpus Sat. We have space exploration satellites, and we have a weather satellites. So in another video, I will have a separate video on these satellites. What are the functions, how they are being employed and used, and what type of data they are being communicating to us. तो उस पे हम अलग एक बार हैं. Now it comes to what are the major applications of remote sensing. Means remote sensing कहाँ पे use होता है. I told you at the beginning of the lecture that remote sensing has brought revolution, not the revolution, but revelation. Means it has brought the new things. Revolution in sense में कि इसने geography को एक नया जो है ना एक phase दिया है. यानी कि geography, it has been from traditional to the modern footings. It has been brought there. अब यहाँ पे क्या है कि revelations क्या है कि the things which were not known to us in the past, things which were very minor, very minute, they were small one, we didn't know about them. But because of the remote sensing, we can have exclusive information the data about these things or objects. So remote sensing application or remote sensing used in different so it can be used for land use or land cover. It is being used for the weather. It's being also used for agriculture, forestry, communication, and biodiversity. These all application has a different background, different sources, that how they are being used, in what way these application are being used in weather, in agriculture, and forestry, in communication. मैं just आपको मिसाल दें, if we just take the example of agriculture, so we see what we find when we use the remote sensing application, remote sensing in agriculture. तो यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं, we can identify crop condition. So through remote sensing, if you just talk about the agriculture, we can identify what type of crops we have and what sort of condition they have, whether they are in low condition, whether they are being growing well, or what sort of conditions. Increasing precision farming, if you want to have a precise formation, so you can use the remote sensing. It can help you determining the soil moisture content, कि जमीन में जो मॉइस्चर मौजूद है, सॉरी सॉइल है, उसमें कितना मॉइस्चर है, कितना पानी मौजूद है. सो थ्रू रिमोट सेंसिंग यू कैन गेट इंफॉर्मेशन ऑन क्रॉप प्रोडक्शन फोरकास्ट, यानी यू कैन फोरकास्ट यानी कि पेशन गोई कर सकते हैं कि बाय लुकिंग एट द सॉइल कंडीशन, लुकिंग एट द क्रॉप कंडीशन, हाउ मच द प्रोडक्शन वी कैन गेट in future also, or in this year also. So remote sensing playing a very important role. Determine crop damage and crop progress, के जो crops की damages कहाँ पे हुए, कितने damages हुए हैं. So you can see through the satellite images. Crop identification, पहले ही बताते, crop condition analysis, stress computation. So when you are going to analyze the condition of any crop, so the remote sensing can let you know about the stress, that where the crops have not been growing. Stress कहाँ पे gray areas हैं, कहाँ पे ये जो आपका crops हैं वो सही तरह से growth नहीं कर पाए. Drought monitoring, so you can have a drought, it gives you information about the drought, कि कहाँ पे aridity है, कौन से arid areas हैं, या what could be the chances of rainfall or even the glaciers melt. ये इस बारे में भी आपको, क्योंकि evaporation के बारे में भी information दे सकते. Water content determination of field crop and crop health analysis also can tell you about the crop health. So आप इससे देखें कि सिर्फ if you talk about the agriculture, उस agriculture में remote sensor कितना role है. So when will we see the weather, communication, biodiversity और land use, कि कितनी चीजें जमीन पे मौजूद हैं, कैसे कैसे changes आती हैं, housing, urbanization, vegetation, roads, communication, ये सारे जो है ना, it's very important here. So I'll in future I will have another video on the application of remote sensing. That will be a more detailed one. ये तो मैंने यहाँ पे आपको थोड़ी सी information दे दी कि ये किस तरह. So it was all about the remote sensing. It was just the information and introduction of remote sensing. It was about the basic knowledge, basic information about a basic background of the remote sensing. I will have another video. It will be the history of remote sensing. Remote sensing कैसे start हुआ, शुरू में क्या हुआ, और उसके बाद what is the latest condition or latest phase of the remote sensing. So till then, take care of yourself. If you like my videos, please subscribe my channels and also share with your friends. So till then, take care of yourself.